Hello, I'm Alma Schneider. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the proud mother of 4 children, one of whom has Prader-Willi syndrome.
And I am Iris Miller. I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor and the proud mother of 2 children, one of whom has quadriplegic cerebral palsy and is nonverbal.
In this podcast, we discuss the uncensored truth about raising children with disabilities.
Prepare to laugh, cry, and hopefully learn something new.
This is Two Moms, No Fluff. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Two Moms, No Fluff. We are so happy. This has been in the works for a long time to have this special guest here who I have known for many, many years. Her name is Christine Panza. Please welcome Christine. And of course, you know my partner here, Iris Miller, who is doing the episode with me as always. And Christine, I knew would have a lot to share about her journey. So I would like to introduce you, Christine, and have you tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, as Emma said, I'm Christine. I'm 24 years old. Alma and I go way back, and I am currently a graduate student at Boston University, and I'm studying anatomy and neurobiology. I have a bachelor's degree from Northeastern, right next door, in behavioral neuroscience, and I really am having a great experience. But one of the biggest things, my disability, I had NF2, which has a really long name, neurofibromatosis type 2. So that's a mouthful. And they just made it longer. They just changed the name. But NF2 is what I say. I never say the long name. And it causes tumors to grow pretty much all over my body, on all my nerves. So the main concern, I have tumors on my hearing nerves, or I should say, I used to have hearing nerves. They had to be removed over the last 5-ish years. And that was a struggle for me, losing hearing in college. That was really tough. And I was diagnosed when I was 9 years old. So really young. I had epilepsy. That was our first sign. And I didn't start losing my hearing until I was a junior in college. That was when it really hit me. And I refused to give up on myself. Just I wouldn't put up with any bullying. I just kept moving forward.
Christine, maybe you can kind of reflect back to yourself at a younger age and share a little bit about how did you deal with the new diagnosis?
So when I was first diagnosed, as I said, I had epilepsy, and that's really tough at a young age, really facing everyone. And I was bullied for a very long time. I mean, I was bullied until I graduated high school. And it was really tough at a young age. I didn't understand what was going on. These tumors started appearing. I was in this really loud machine for 2.5 hours every 3 months. I just didn't understand. And unfortunately, my classmates didn't really understand as well. So we didn't know what was going on. And unfortunately, I was bullied for it. I was bullied for missing school, let alone having seizures in the middle of class. Everyone looked at me as this weirdo. And I became really self-confined, and I felt a little bit like a loner through most of my years, and that's probably where I found my love for academics, because it was the one place I could turn that was steady. I always had that. I grew up with divorced parents, so I was back and forth, And I was always at the doctor, and it was my one stable thing in life. And so I really embraced it. And yes, of course, I found a few friends along the way, and they were really a great support for me. I don't like the term normal because everyone has a different norm. And we shouldn't have this idea that there's something we have to live up to. Everyone has a different routine, and that's okay. That's what makes everything so interesting in life. And if we were all the same, normal's boring. It
Yeah.
really is. Who wants to be normal? And so I I really, unfortunately, when I was young, because I was bullied, I really tried to hide my disability. And um, because NFT is progressive, I never knew what to expect the next year. And so I was in therapy for 12 years crying because I was bullied. And I mean, I started in therapy after I was diagnosed, and I just didn't understand. I couldn't pronounce what I had until I was 15, maybe. But my parents, they were honest with me, which was uh, frustrating at the time, but I appreciate it now. I'm glad they told me like it was. They broke it down for me, and just my mom, she's who I get my brutally honest personality from. They told me, listen, this is your life. I remember going to NIH when I was 10 years old, and I was tested like a guinea pig, as they say. I know I can't be someone else, so why not embrace it? I laugh when people they don't knock me anymore. I have a lot of great friends who just they one of my friends said to me after I said this is my problem when I went through school, she said, no, it's our problem. And she
Wow.
said it's not a problem. We're gonna face it together.
Wow.
And it
This is
was
a
really nice
friend,
to hear
you
that.
said? This is a friend who said that?
She she's actually in grad school with me. Her name is Sarah, and she maybe it's because she's also a science nerd, so she likes the neuroscience of it.
Yeah.
I only hang out with science nerds now, so most people think it's cool. The first thing she said to me, she's like, "Oh, cool," and then she realized what she said, and she's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean that." I'm like, "No, I get it."
Yeah.
And my doctor the other day mentioned being a guinea pig with all these tests. And I said, I don't want to be a guinea pig. Guinea pig me away, test me away. I want to be a researcher when I get older. I want to get my PhD. So I understand that we need guinea pigs to do research. And of course, when I was younger, I think dealing with disabilities as a child, it was really tough. It was just, I was, besides being bullied, I didn't again, like I said, I didn't understand. And that's one thing my parents, although they kept telling me about my condition, I think just because the maturity wasn't there, I
Mhm.
wasn't I wasn't able to comprehend what they were saying. I looked at MRIs and didn't know what they were. I just assumed that my parents would know. They didn't know what they were talking about either when it came to MRIs, but I just assumed they would know. But
Christine,
when I started a clinical trial at 15, like I said, and I was at NYU, I was hormonal. Let's start with that. So it was pretty rough for my doctors that I was very upset a lot of the time. But
Christine,
I unfortunately
can I
had to
ask you,
watch my tumors go back. Sure.
sorry,
Yes.
can I ask you,
Yeah.
what would you recommend to other parents, other families whose children receive a new diagnosis, how can the parents best support their child?
Don't hide from the diagnosis. Don't be shy. Don't try to cover it up. Be honest with your kids. I mean, it's gonna be hard to take in as a child, but they're gonna appreciate it when they get older, knowing that their parents were honest with them. I mean, it's their life, right? They should know what's going on. And I think parents obviously they want to take away from their child. My parents would go to the moon if they had to, if they could get rid of my disease, but they can't. So be confident. Don't try not to let your fears show. I'm sure as a parent, you're very fearful with the new diagnosis of your child. But the more confident you are, the more confident your child is going to be.
Okay,
They
great.
really are.
Great. I have a question too. What would you say has been the most helpful, aside from being honest with you from the start, that your family or your friends have been able to provide for you during this whole disability journey?
I think my parents they recognized that I, they recognized that I had emotions. I had really tough days, and they recognized that not only were these medical conditions, but they came with psychological conditions as well, not understanding and being frustrated. And I think parents, I'm sure they see their kids really upset. I remember hearing I need brain surgery for the first time. I cried and I said, I was sitting in my mom's lap and I was 18. So, but I started crying and I said to my mom, I can't cry. I'm stronger than this. And she said to me, it's okay to cry. And it stuck with me. And just my mom was trying the last brain surgery. I went in and I gave her a hug and I said, I'm gonna be okay. And when I came out, my mom was crying and I said, it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
So I talked about being confident before, and well, that's so important. Emotions are also, everyone has emotions. I mean, that's part of being human. So, well, parents will hopefully be confident and embrace that and then instill that in their child. We're gonna have emotions. We all are. And I remember I had a really dramatic senior year of high school, not only because I got into college and was super excited, but after my first brain surgery, I developed a really rare respiratory infection and I almost died. There was a 6% survival rate of what I had.
Wow.
And I was on the ventilator for days. I was in the critical care ICU, like even higher than ICU. And I wasn't conscious and doctors, I was fighting for my life. I woke up and I couldn't talk. I lost my ability to speak. I couldn't breathe. I mean, I couldn't swallow. And I remember waking up and the first thing I saw were my parents crying over me. And I looked at them like, why? Why are you crying? And my dad said to me, we thought that you weren't going to make it. And that I started crying. But then, of course, then I was really frustrated. I couldn't speak. So I was writing on the whiteboard, but I was so weak that I could barely write even. I couldn't even lift my head. And I just think because it's progressive, whether the disability is progressive or not, we need to embrace it and recognize that our child, my parents recognized that I was being bullied and that it was going to make me, I came on crying. And they recognized that. They didn't just try to say, oh, well, those kids are nothing. They said, you know what, bullies are just self-conscious of themselves. They really, they, yes, they tried to console me, but they were honest about it. They didn't shy away from telling me the truth. Yeah, bullies are mean, but that's okay, because when you achieve something that they did too, with everything going on, fighting adversity, that can feel even better.
Yeah.
And
Well, I feel, it's when I listen to you, I get so upset that, we're still in a place where kids are bullying and the staff of the schools. I'm assuming you went to Montclair High School, right? You went
yes,
to public school, and
and
to
I,
hear
I don't think they did enough.
they
If
didn't.
that was your question.
And it's, yeah, and it's important. It is so important that we all work together to really put an end to this. And I know, as Christine has mentioned, I've known her for many, many years. I didn't know you during this period in high school. And but I do know that later your mom would send emails about walks for NF2 to raise awareness and to raise money. And I know that they were very active in that way, to help to support you in those kind of ways to raise money for funding, raise awareness. And that's also something really important. I don't know if you were going to mention that has kind of kept them fighting for you, not just the emotional piece, but really becoming activists for this
An advocate, yeah. I mean, I think I matured at a young age and really took over my health care.
Mhm.
I make all my appointments, schedule everything, talk with my doctors, and my parents are like, what's going on? So now it's kind of the opposite of when I was younger.
Mhm.
But I'm also 24, so I kind of have to start managing my health alone. And I think that's another thing. Parents really, I think it's important to make your child a part of just their health care, talking to doctors. I think not them to make appointments at 9 years old, but
Mhm.
really, I think teaching them on the way how they're gonna have to manage life with their disability.
Mhm.
I think that's really important.
Mhm.
And it was something I'm really grateful. My parents, they gave me the freedom to do what I could, and then they filled in the rest. And I mean, I still don't drive. And so my mom took me to an MRI last night. So I still
That's
did.
tough because the driving, I know, because of the epilepsy, right? That it's hard to
Yeah, yeah.
drive because of the epilepsy. Iris, did you want to say something?
Yes, Christine, I really want to ask you about your input as we're kind of wrapping up this episode. Maybe you can share some wisdom with other families who are dealing with their children's kind of progressive diagnosis, because many of the developmental disabilities diagnoses are
It
non-progressive.
changes.
Yeah, but can you share a little bit about your maybe method to dealing with an ever-changing diagnosis?
I think with a progressive disease, I I never knew what the future would hold. And my dad said something to me when I was driving back from the hospital when I was 10 years old. And he said, we can control what we can control. So let's focus on that. And
Mhm.
that really stuck with me. Now, it obviously the things I can control have changed over the years, but now it's mainly my dad asked me, is this safe? Am I doing the smart thing? Am I making a smart choice? And because I'm a little bit of a daredevil, so my parents have to, reel me in and say, oh, that's not smart. So, you know, book smart, not street smart necessarily.
That's a parent's
But
job. That's a parent's job.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I told my mom. She said, "Oh, you're not being smart about this." I'm like, "Yeah, that's why you're here."
That's right. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that we haven't covered um, with our audience about your experience or about your hopes
I
uh,
think
for yourself or other
not
families,
only
the
should
community?
we not shy away from it, but I think it's also important that parents help a child embrace their disability and become an advocate.
Hmm.
Being a parent, being an advocate will help the child be an advocate for themselves, standing up for themselves, telling the doctor. I think when we have doctor's appointments, the doctor thinks about the disability and medical condition and not the other parts of things.
Hmm.
And we have lives, and I think it's important to instill in a child that they can stand up for themselves, they can share their opinion, and they, even to other people, it doesn't have to be a doctor. They can tell their parents how they feel too. I know I've had more than a couple of screaming matches with my parents over the years. I still do to this day.
Of course.
And it usually ends up with me just turning off my phone. But, you know, it's, I think, teaching their children to be an advocate for themselves and really speak for themselves. Again, younger children are gonna they can't necessarily do this themselves,
Right.
but children see more than parents think. They watch their parents,
Yes.
and I think it's really important. My mom she battled to get me to see a neurologist. My pediatrician didn't believe her, and just watching that really helped me learn that, hey, I need to stand up for myself. If I think somebody's wrong, talk.
Yeah. And I want to add that Christine, we didn't mention that you presented at our Disability Pride Parade in Montclair, and you were very honest about how hard it was, but how you have come to terms with it, and how you are an advocate, and how you are embracing your disability. And I think that that was so helpful for people to see and to hear. And
Yeah.
that's you being an activist,
Educate,
and we really
educate others.
hmm to educate others, because that's all, we need to all have people understand what everyone goes through, and it's not always easy for people to do it. So I just personally, I really appreciated you being so forthright about talking about your experience at the parade, and for being willing to talk with us today on this episode, because people need to hear what it's like and not be afraid.
Honesty is the best policy.
Yes.
And I think I'll finish with, I think bullies, when they bully, they're not only self-conscious, but they're bullying because they aren't educated.
Yes, absolutely.
So
So thank you for being a part of the process to educate, because that's the only way things are going to change.
I think it's a teacher's responsibility to educate the students, but the parents' responsibility to educate the teacher.
Hmm.
And really, the teacher doesn't know what's going on. How are they supposed to help?
Yeah.
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 And it even I when I say teacher, even my professors this year, they didn't know what was going on. And then once I told them, I remember the first thing, my professor barely knew her. We were having trouble figuring out the captions the first day of class, understandably. And I felt so bad. I'm like, just start and I'll catch up. And she said, no, you're my student and you deserve an education just like everyone else.
Wow. That should be the norm. That's the most, that should be the standard. And unfortunately, it's not that way. But hopefully, with people like you being open and honest and
It
raising
should be.
awareness,
That's the
it
key
will.
word.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for meeting with us today. Iris, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, just to thank you, Christine, again for your time, your honesty, and for sharing your story and being such a great advocate for others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it was my pleasure. We have to educate and we have to be truthful, tell
Yes.
others the difficulties. It's not pity, it's being honest. It really is.
And if anyone in our audience have questions or comments and would like to touch base with Christine, please comment and email us at info@1in6support, and we'll be able to share your questions with Christine. Christine, thank you again so very much, and we'll see everybody in our next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
My pleasure.
For more information, please go to www.twomomsnofluff.com. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give it a 5-star rating so more people can hear it. Thank you.